there's this concept in schema therapy, which is called limited reparenting, which is basically like the attachment trauma that you've had needs to be healed through the therapeutic relationship. And the therapist is actually meeting your needs in an appropriate way. They're not holding you and rocking you from side to side. Maybe some are. So limited reparenting, meeting those attachment needs through the relationship, and then that experience can be taken to your other relationships. When you look at masking, like that's actually a response to attachment trauma, in my view. It's a trauma response, so is rejection sensitivity to internalized ableism. And so if you're masking in therapy, that's actually actively going against the therapeutic needs. So the number one aim, so this is something that I want to write about in my education for professionals, is your number one thing is if your client, you are feeling like there's something there, is blocking that, or they're masking, the main focus is on helping them feel comfortable so they don't have to mask.
Welcome to Princess in the Pea podcast, a show where we talk about all things neurodiversity, with those who know it best, lived experience, of course. I'm your host, Annie Crow, and I'm an autistic ADHDer. I started this podcast so I could share meaningful conversations that explore the lives of neurodivergent people like myself. We talk about everything from employment to healthcare, education, parenting, relationships, mental health and more, but all with a neurospicy lens. Before we kick off, I just wanted to add a quick content warning for little ears. This podcast will be discussing mental health issues and serious adult business, so chuck on your headphones and grab a cup of tea, and as Bluey likes to say, let's do this! Today's guest is our very first neurodivergent psychologist, the best kind of course, Dr. Joey Lawrence, whose pronouns are she and they, a rising TikTok star at nd_site, where she mixes their lived experience with their professional skills in a highly relatable way. So many truth bombs. Today is a bit more of a casual chat where two friends share their thoughts and feelings on navigating therapy and understanding neurodivergence. Dr. Joey is a clinical psychologist who, after years of practicing psychology, discovered she was in fact an autistic ADHDer. Yay! She talks about how misrepresented and stereotyped autism really was in their extensive studies and how she started digging deeper. Dr. Joey is currently shifting gears while unpacking their own neurodivergent identity and practicing my favourite skill, radical self-acceptance. Joey is one of my favourite people to share my special interest of psychology with, and we have a lot to say about it. Also, recently Joey has joined the board for the brand new not-for-profit Eating Disorders Neurodiversity Australia, or EDNA, where she is using their lived experience and extensive professional skills to educate fellow healthcare providers on what neurodiversity affirming care really looks like. This was recorded many weeks ago now while I had a cold, so please excuse the sound quality. Daycare bugs are the worst. Also, I wanted to talk about how the show is shifting towards becoming a more ND affirming platform. Firstly, I'm ditching consistency as it's a social construct made by and for neurotypicals. Rebel, I know. Secondly, I've got a podcast episode coming out soon where I'll be talking to a brilliant autistic human who isn't using her voice at the moment. So we did the entire interview via messages, which I'll be reading out. Might be dangerous as a dyslexic dysgraphic host, but we'll see. I've been wanting to try this for a while as non-speaking autists are commonly excluded from much of the neurodiversity dialogue. This guest isn't always non-speaking, but we thought we shouldn't let her current communication style stop us from having a chat with you all. And I try to be as accessible as possible. And finally, I'm currently wearing the hats of host, producer, coordinator, marketer, and all that jazz, figuring it out as I go. I hope I can get some professional help. Don't worry, I already have that kind that you're thinking of, for editing and getting some transcripts up soon. Before we kick off, I wanted to share some really exciting news that we've recently surpassed 500 downloads, barely a month into going live. And I found this news out on Autistic Pride Day, which was the icing on the cake. Thank you to all you beautiful humans who put up with my voice and support the show. It's a pleasure for me to talk to all these incredible humans, but to share it with you and hear so many amazing stories about your own neurodivergent awakening and pride just fills my heart with joy. Anyway, I think you're going to really enjoy this one. We talk about everything from masking to monotropism, rejection sensitivity, trauma, and more. It's a jam-packed episode with all the feels. So enjoy! Hello, Dr. Joey. Welcome to the show.
Hi, happy to be here.
Thank you for coming on. It's great to have you here. I thought we could start with you letting us know how you found out about your own neurodivergence.
I can't actually really remember the first time I came across anything to do with it. The ADHD, so I'm diagnosed with ADHD and I'm going through the autism stuff, but I'm pretty much like...
You know.
Yeah, that's a thing. And I do recall there was this presentation I was doing at work one day and I was like really, really like interested in ADHD. I sat there, like I came to work early. I like made this whole thing. And then I said to everyone, we're doing this, in our team meeting. And I just like info dumped on everyone about ADHD. And they were like, whoa. And I didn't connect the dots. And then I connected the dots when I'm like, why am I so,
Was it in that presentation, like that you put it together?
During, I'm like, oh my God, like reading the criteria. No.
This is me.
No, it was sort of like, it's strange actually, because I think my understanding of my neurodivergence, like it's come in chunks. So I'm like, it's like back and forth. And then like the kind of part that's like, yes, grows. So it was maybe there a little bit, but it was only until maybe a couple months after I actually got diagnosed with ADHD that I was like, I am it.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common experience for us women as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is, being that you're, in the profession that does said diagnosing, it doesn't really surprise me at all. Like if anyone's thinking, what, as if psychologists wouldn't know, that's one of the reasons I've even created this show is that they don't. Most of them really don't, because I actually started a psych degree for fun after I was diagnosed in an effort to understand my own neurodivergence. And I quit immediately because the first subject, I don't know if it was the first subject, but one of the first subjects had a big chunk on autism and it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was so ableist and so stereotyped and male presentation. I was just like, why would I pay to do a degree that's not going to give me anything about myself? So I guess for listeners who don't know, that it's actually really common for psychologists not to understand how ADHD and autism present in women. It's actually quite rare to find ones that get it.
Yeah. And I studied psychology for 10 years and have worked clinically for maybe 6. Mm-hmm. And it was still very much a surprise to me that
Not surprising to me that that's a surprise to you anymore.
Yeah. So that level of... But when I look back to what I learned, and I mean, you were lucky enough to have this other view of autism. I like the way I saw autism, what I learned about it was so far from my experience. I would never see myself in that.
Neither.
And so and I look back, and I don't know if I told you about this, but there have been lots of times in my career where like I was in more of a trainee role.
Yeah.
And I would actually assess them, and like I just cringed so much that I didn't diagnose them. And like these are things I think I have to work through in therapy, seriously, because I'm like, where is that person now? Like that's actually so harmful to them, and they were distraught as well. So I'm sorry to these people, really.
And I totally get that. We have so
Yeah.
much internalized ableism. And when you're trained in that sort of way, like, how could you not be anything but that? You know, I think if you were diagnosing someone today, it would be very different. But,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
that was pre your neurodivergence awakening. So it doesn't surprise me at all. And please don't feel bad, because you are absolutely not alone in doing that. And
Mm.
no ill intent was there.
Yeah. I don't know. I sort of, the way it makes me feel is like I was, this is very dramatic, but like I was under hostage and like made to do things that I sort of felt on a level was wrong, but I didn't know how to articulate it because I actually did feel like it was wrong. And I couldn't stop thinking. And I was like, why is this so, why am I thinking about this so much? And I look back and I'm like, oh, I was missing something. I was missing like
Mm.
so many times. Yeah. And then it was only until I had a client who's autistic, although a lot of my clients were autistic. I ended up diagnosing them after I figured all this out. And so I'm like, I'm going to learn about autism and watch this TED Talk thing about neurodiversity or something. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there are a lot of autistic people around. Why would they be around still if it wasn't something that was like selected for or valued in like evolutionary history? And it's just like made heaps of sense to me.
Yes, I just read an article tonight that was it was some study published that was basically proved that autism is not caused by poor gut health, and actually poor gut health is usually caused by being autistic, because we tend to have not the greatest diets or quite restrictive repetitive eating. And I was reading it, but just thinking, why are we wasting our time on this? Like, that's already been proven. Can you please research something that's actually going to help us live better lives and not try and cure
Mm.
us, because we're not curable. We're just different. It's like trying to cure race or gender.
Oh, that annoys me so much. Yeah, I don't know why this still goes on. Like, I actually have this thing in my mind. Like, I have just been fully into the neuroaffirming approach.
Me too.
I just like think that's the way. But yes, I would like. I think the research is turning into this way. Like, there's more stuff on like masking and
Yes, absolutely.
like a double empathy problem
Yep.
and things like that. So I think that's positive. But yes, I agree that there's some bodies that are maybe not progressing in the way that autistic people are asking for.
Agreed.
I don't know about yourself, but I really struggle with emotional things to the extent where I can hardly even watch like TV.
Yep.
Ads make me cry.
Me in the news.
The news, I had to like okay, there's certain things I ban from conversation because I like literally won't be able to regulate if I hear about them. It's like,
Same.
no, I can't.
So nice to hear I'm not alone.
It's the hyper empathy is intense. And so I kind of feel like it's happening to me. And when I hear this stuff, it's like I can feel that.
On such a deep level.
So it's hard. It's hard. And it's hard when I'm like trying to communicate and be like help health professionals who it's just a different way to understand things and not getting that response because that dilutes your message. And
I totally get it. I figured out how to watch the news without getting too affected by it. It's taken me years, like over a decade. I watched the really short 3-minute summary. I have an Alexa, executive function. I watch it in the morning. I have like the little video one in the kitchen, and I watch the news summary, and it's just enough to hit me the headlines and be kept up to date, but not enough that it ever gets me too far into any of the very emotional topics. But it's so hard because I want to stay on top of the news, but it's really draining, and we only have so many spoons in a day,
Yeah, I don't know if that would like I would ever have a strategy for that. But anyway, my strategy right now is banning the news and just going through my partner. He's pretty much my executive functions anyway.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, from your professional experience, how do psychologists decide what therapy type to use? Like, is it, do some of them specialize in certain type? For instance, I could be a psychologist that does CBT or another one that does EMDR, or do they all get taught the same and sort of mix it up, or case by case basis? What do you find that you've done, and I guess professionals that you've worked with have done, just from like an outsider newbie point of view? Because obviously I've had a lot of therapy, but it's always been different. I just wonder, like, for those listening that maybe haven't done therapy, what to expect and how to know, who to see and what they specialize in.
There's so many therapies. So there's a lot that influences that. Like from the uni you go to, certain unis have different, like certain therapies that they emphasize. To your supervisor, like I've had supervisors who are like really into like psychodynamic therapy, and some that are really CBT. So kind of depends on that. But eventually you'll get to a point as a psych where you go towards things that more make sense for you and that you can operate in. Unfortunately for me, I have this desire for internal coherence, and there's not that in therapy. It's one of the biggest issues for me where I will go, I'll learn one therapy and I'll go, okay. But no, it's just, it doesn't,
Doesn't feel right.
yeah. And then I do another. And that's just been my whole career,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
It caused a lot of distress for me, like the communication and everything like that. But have you heard of you probably have like the monotropism theory of autism?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of like
Oh,
that.
but our listeners probably haven't.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll explain it after the therapy thing. So, what happened with me is I needed to look for an underlying model of therapy. For me, it's like the sort of social contextual stuff. So, social constructivism, how we view mental health and that, and common factors theory, which is the idea that there are like what makes therapy work? What are the ingredients that actually lead to outcomes for people? And that it actually shows that there's not one therapy that, it more depends on the therapeutic relationship. So anyway, try explain that to a client. They're like, what are you talking about?
Fair.
If you go to a therapist,
Complicated.
yeah. I think like people focus on like modalities, like I do this, I do that, I do this, but it's like, do you connect with them? Do you
Yeah.
trust them? Do you feel like afraid to tell them stuff?
Yeah.
Because like if you do, it's
Do you
not going
feel
to work.
judged?
Oh yeah,
That's a
yeah,
big
yeah.
one for me. My first therapist, I stayed with her for 3 years, which was, looking back, so silly. But at the time, I had nothing to compare it to. And so I just thought I was the thing that wasn't working, not her. And yeah, we mostly did CBT with a little bit of ACT, but acceptance and commitment therapy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
keep using acronyms. I felt very judged by her. And I don't necessarily think that she was judging me. But what I guess my point is that I didn't feel safe. And I think everyone needs to feel safe in therapy. But if you're autistic and ADHD, you need to feel like way safer because, especially if you're like us and you mask a lot, because you're so used to putting on a front to the world because you've just been knocked back so many times, rejection sensitivity and everything, that
Yeah.
if you don't feel 110% safe, there's no point. And it's hard
Mhm.
because you don't walk into a therapist and know that you feel safe straight away. I've come down years later and tried a few therapies and few therapists, and I finally have ones that I do feel safe with, but it took me a few months of seeing them to really, truly open up and to trust them. But I guess reflecting on my therapy journey, I think trust is one of the biggest things, regardless of therapy modality, even though I like to criticize CBT.
CBT has its place, its underlying theory, but it's just how it's applied. I talk to a lot of people about this actually online because I'm in a lot of forums and people like, get therapy. And you're like, all right, okay, where do I find one? How do I find one that doesn't make me feel worse? It happens. I just want to acknowledge that. And what I say is like, there's this concept in schema therapy, which is called limited reparenting, which is basically like the attachment trauma that you've had needs to be healed through the therapeutic relationship. And the therapist is actually meeting your needs in an appropriate way. They're not holding you and rocking you from side to side. Maybe some are, but those needs are sort of so limited reparenting, meeting those attachment needs through the relationship, and then that experience can be taken to your other relationships. And when you look at masking, like that's actually a response to attachment trauma, in
That's
my view.
so true.
It's a trauma response, so is rejection sensitivity to internalized ableism. And so if you're masking in therapy, that's actually actively going against the therapeutic
Yeah, that makes
needs.
sense.
So the number one aim, so this is something that I want to write about in my education for professionals, is your number one thing is if your client, you are feeling like there's something there, it's blocking that, or they're masking, the main focus is on helping them feel comfortable so they don't have to mask. And that might take a year. I've worked with some clients, it's literally been
Yeah,
a
that's
year.
true. And also, I guess, to be aware enough and professional enough to also recognize when maybe you aren't a good fit, because it's so much harder for the client to know that, especially if they're new to therapy like I was. If they're not making that much progress and you have given it a good hard go of a few months or even that,
Mhm.
I guess the 12-month mark is probably a kicker to be like, okay, maybe they need someone else. I think that's probably another thing. I really wish
Mhm.
my first therapist had done that, to be honest. I was very committed to that therapy and it was horrible.
Yeah. I think as part of that as well is this what can happen with not being diagnosed is not knowing what our needs are and how do
Mm,
we're just sort of like very passive recipients of care. So how do we have that voice to be like, this doesn't feel right, this isn't helping when you just think you're wrong?
mhm. Yeah, and the other thing, I don't know if you find this, but autism can look a lot like narcissism. When I first did therapy, she didn't say I was a narcissist, but in the CBT that we did, it kind of came like I felt as if she was trying to say like I cared too much about others'
Mhm.
opinions. But then when I looked into narcissism, it didn't fit. Like I didn't have the same motivations, even though maybe the behavior looked similar.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I would like some people who are autistic can be narcissistic. Like
true.
people who are autistic can be anything, right? Which is,
Exactly. It's a different thing.
but like autism literally means selfism.
Yeah, auto one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a frame of viewing the world through like a very individualized lens. So of course you're going to be like, how does that? Like, I don't know. Being autistic and trying to understand like how other people see
It's
things
very
is
hard.
like not something that I'm good
Yeah.
at,
It's like, how do people
but
not know
I've
this?
tried. I know, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
it's not something you're doing because you think you're better than other people. It's
No.
just like it's how your brain works, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny like how subtle it can be as well. Like even recently, we've had a slew of illnesses since my toddler started daycare. So it's been like a fun 3 months. And my husband was sick the other day and I wasn't. And he's not very overt at showing he's ill. I guess he's just a little bit more avoidant of housework, maybe, which is fine. Like, we're already both pretty demand avoidant. But he didn't like look really sick. Whereas when I'm sick, I'm like, oh, like really whingy, woe is me. And so I just didn't think he was that sick. And he kept telling me he wasn't well, but he didn't seem it.
Uh-huh.
And it was really hard for me to think just because he doesn't look like I look when I'm sick doesn't mean it's not bad. Anyway, serves me right. I then caught what he had that my son gave him, then me, and it was horrible.
It's one way to know. True empathy.
Yeah, I
You
know,
literally
right?
experienced it. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sick." And by then he was feeling better. He's like, "I know, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, is this how you were?" He's like, "Yes, I told you." I'm like, "Yeah, but you didn't seem that sick." I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Mhm.
I find sometimes it's hard when people don't behave similarly to me to understand where their head's at.
Yes. Well, why would you? I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, true.
I am all for like I said I had this conversation with my partner today. I was just going on and on and on about all the random things I talk about, and he's just like, "Oh my god, shut up!" And I'm like, I'm constantly thinking like, "Am I annoying him? How much do I say?" Like this internal thing,
Yeah, me too.
and I'm like, "Can you just tell me if I'm annoying you?"
That would be helpful.
Because it's just like too much it's just too much like pressure on myself to internalize all these different levels of conversation. I'm gonna have a meltdown if I continue with this. Like I'm gonna burn out. I just can't. So I'm like, just tell me. And if you don't tell me, well, you haven't told me. I
Absolutely.
don't know if that's rude, but
No, that's actually really helpful. And I kind of do the same with my partner. Seriously. Otherwise, you're just second guessing it all the time.
yeah.
So with my husband, he's very much like he will just tell me if he's annoyed at me or anything at me because then I don't ever have to be on guard around him. And it's actually really helpful because I truly like now that we're very practiced at it
Mhm.
and good at it, I don't ever feel like I need to second guess his behavior. He's very much upfront about his own needs and he's very good at helping me not have to second guess him. So it just feels like I'm absolutely not masking at home anymore, which is so nice.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's it's really tricky to get to that point because you have to sort of like
Yeah.
it's quite an unusual thing when people can just be direct with one another and not have to read into their behavior
Yeah.
as much as I would like that to just be every single interaction I've ever had. But
Same. Why can't that be the norm?
well, I'm trying to make it my norm. Like at the moment, I'm just like,
True.
because I burnt out recently, and it's some of these things, like just these little things that I have to put mental energy into.
Hmm.
And that's really it's masking, really.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, well, there's actually people who do have direct communication.
True.
And how about I just kind of try to spend more time around those people? And then for the
Yeah.
indirect people, just explain to them, hey, when you did this, this is, like all
Yeah,
those
yeah,
communication skills that I find really hard.
yeah. Yeah, yep.
It's, I don't know, ask me in 5 years.
No, no, no. This is helpful because I went to an all girls school for the first 6 months of high school,
Hmm.
and I specifically chose this school because at the end of primary school was when girls and boys were starting to get interested in each other, and that changed the playground dynamics, and the girls were getting a little cliquier.
Hmm.
And so I was finishing up primary school, and everyone was choosing which high schools to go to, and I was like, I want to go back to how it used to be before everyone cared about who liked who and who kissed who in the playground. So, my brain was like, oh, autistic logic. I didn't know I was just autistic, but I was like, I'll go to all girls school. Terrible decision. Really, really bad decision. I was always more friends with guys at school. Um, I did have girlfriends, but they were usually only one or two of them.
Mm.
I was never in like a big girl group for very long because it was just really cliquey. And literally within the first month of me being at this all girls school, there were 2 cat fights in the quad. And like it was next level bitchiness, which blows my mind because there were no boys to fight over, but clearly boys weren't the problem. If anything, I feel like being around boys made the girls behave more.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. This is super stereotyping. And I know friends that went to all girls schools that loved it. And apparently it does get better. Like, the older you get in high school at the all girls schools, you become really close and you get over that, I don't know, hump of hormones or whatever it is that does that. But I really struggled and I couldn't quite comprehend why. But I guess it
Mm.
kind of goes to that similar story of me worrying about what my mum thinks of me, because in female dynamics, there's so much more subtlety in communication. You can have a girlfriend say, I don't mind that you were late, but she's actually really pissed off at you, and then goes and tells your other
Mm.
friends that you're a, jerk or whatever. And all of a sudden she's giving you the silent treatment, or, I mean, I don't even befriend people like this anymore. I've
Yeah.
like cleansed my life of that type of person, but that is very much a common thing for women. And I think it's something that as an
Mhm.
autistic woman, we are actually not terrible at the social dynamics because we've had to learn that nuance,
Mhm.
whether it's from a logical, analytical way rather than an intuitive way, or at least that's how I view how I've done it.
Yeah. Same.
But at the same time, we still get caught out quite a bit, and it eats away at us because most of the time it's for things that we really didn't mean, right? And we think we're okay with someone, and then all of a sudden it comes back on the grapevine that they think we're horrible. Like, oh yeah, it's rough.
Oh, it's really hard for me. I think the social side of things is something that I don't really understand so much of myself yet, because my whole life I thought I was all right, but then I look back and I'm like, well, I did use like a lot of alcohol,
Yeah.
yeah, to cope, and also being friends with boys. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna like professionally understand how to social by doing a degree in psychology and like literally train myself in like every single nuance. So I don't know how much is me, how much is the mask. Like it's all a mess. And now, like, every time I have a social thing, I'm like watching my own brain. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like obsessing about this and that. Like, I don't even notice.
It's hard to
It's so
unpack.
crazy. I don't even know.
Yeah. Oh, I feel you. I feel you. I didn't even do a psych degree and I'm like that. So that must be an extra level of
Hmm.
difficult to
Yeah.
understand. Yeah. And especially because you're still in the throes of diagnosis. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm a few years down the track now. And honestly, it took me 2 years after being diagnosed to really start wrapping my head around what it meant and reflecting on my whole, 30 years of not knowing.
Bit of a delayed one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, well, it was more of a, like for me, I think I have a bit of a less common story in the sense that, a lot of women who are both autistic and ADHD get diagnosed ADHD and then take another few years to either work out they're autistic or get a diagnosis, from what I hear. But for me, I went in to see the psychiatrist knowing full well I had ADHD. I had just come across it after I was diagnosed with PTSD because there's quite an overlap in symptoms, and went down the rabbit hole of ADHD in women and was like, oh my God, this explains everything. And so I thought I was all prepared. And then I walked out with the autism diagnosis. and I
Oh.
had not looked into that at all. And he gave me like a comic to look at. It wasn't really badly stereotyped, but it was also, I didn't really link, it didn't feel right to me. So I was like, okay, I'll go research this. I'm
Mhm.
not sure. And then obviously I did and was like, oh, wow, how did I miss this? Because especially because it's so co-occurring with ADHD. But I mean, back then I wasn't reading many like research papers and stuff. I'd go to sources like attitude.com and stuff, and they don't like to bring up the
Mm.
autism connection that much.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
weird.
don't know.
Yeah, I was just mind blown that I had autism. And I'm like, no, that's, I didn't even, literally didn't even have a stereotype to compare it to. I've had no one in my life was autistic that I knew of. I just had no idea. And so
Mm.
my first dive into the research was into the scientific side of it, which is much more ableist and stereotyped.
Oh, yeah.
And it took me quite a while to break into the neurodivergent community.
Mm.
And that was really, I think, what took me so long, to be honest. And hopefully that means that you and friends of mine who are just learning they're autistic have a quicker processing
Yeah,
period. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
But for me, the first 6 months especially was quite horrible. And I think it is common from what I hear, everyone explains the late diagnosis, especially of autism, as a roller coaster because you get such relief and such joy at understanding yourself finally and having answers that you've been seeking forever. But at the same time, such grief for having to reprocess your life and think about how it could have been different and all of that. So, I mean, I had all of that. But I think a lot of it, to be honest, was to do with the fact that I didn't have that neuro affirming care and access to information that is basically why like we do what we do, right? That's what we want people to have so that they can, one, recognize it in themselves earlier, and two, when they do, it's not such a emotional roller coaster.
It's like so many things have to line up in order to go through. And I swear, if I like wrote down all the stages of like pre-diagnosis, diagnosis, and like there's no guarantee that even those things will go smoothly. It's just a mental, this crazy roller
Yep.
coaster is an understatement. Right now, I'm just like really angry,
Yeah.
but I think I completely like go through your process as well. Like, because when I don't even think I knew women could have autism. I don't know. I just never thought about it.
Neither.
And when I heard it, I was like, huh? Like I was so confused.
Yeah.
And I was like, but so some like I heard the first thing apart from the TED talk was like a podcast about autism.
Yeah.
And again, it was for my client.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman was talking about how she has autism. I'm like, oh, she speaks really well, which is like so crazy. That I'm like,
Yeah.
she speaks well, therefore she knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
weird. It doesn't add
Well,
up.
that's what
And the
they
thing
teach it
is,
at, psychology. I've seen it.
some of the most articulate people are autistic.
Mm-hmm.
If they're talking about something they're interested in. Don't ask me about random things I don't care about.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I had that model, and then yeah, it just kind of started clicking, and it was actually my psychologist because she has a podcast, amazing podcast, the Neurodivergent Woman,
So good.
and I was listening to that, and I'm like, she was talking about ADHD and burnout, so I'm like, oh, I should talk to her. The first time I saw
Hey.
her, she's like, I think you're an autistic burnout. I'm like, huh? What?
Yep.
Like, so I'm looking back now at my ADHD list to my psychiatrist, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
sensory stimulation question mark, grocery shopping very tiring, need a nap after, biggest breakdowns after this, hypersensitivities, scraping sounds, certain sounds, eating,
Me too. Me
the
too.
sound of a spoon mixing a drink angers me, migraines. I don't know, a lot of sounds anger me. I definitely have the misophonia thing.
I think that's interesting that you say that because, and it's something I want to draw attention to because I think a lot of people, when they think sensory sensitivities, they don't like it, it's talked about in quite a stereotyped way. For me, my sensory issues are quite severe, but they fluctuate depending on like my environment, my stress levels, how much I've slept, all of that jazz.
Mhm.
But for me, I have like a visceral anger and irritation. It's
Mm.
not so much necessarily painful. I mean, sometimes it is, and I just don't know how to explain it, but I think it's something that's important to say because some people don't think they have sensory issues when they do, just because of how it is talked about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The things like I was learning about autism, and I'm like, do you hate tags? Are you really picky with your food? Which I'm not that picky. And It's like totally different.
Yep.
I think it's because we don't really understand, like we don't learn about sensory processing. It's such a complex area. Like I have visual overstimulation and I never knew. I just feel bad all the time. I never even knew. I thought it was normal. And it was only until my sensory issues were addressed. I'm like, whoa, I don't feel horrible.
Yeah.
Because I just felt horrible all the time, right?
Oh, yeah. I love how we have to be better before we realize how bad we were.
And I'm like, I don't know why I get migraines. Oh, the migraines was, I would have them all the time. And the doctor's like, I don't know. It's very, very
Yeah,
obvious.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Oh, that's rough. Speaking of doctors, so you know how sensory issues can be interoception and exteroception. So for listeners, interoception is like hunger signals, pain, how you experience pain, urgency to go to the toilet, that sort of thing. And exteroception is like sensitivity to input. So it's really bright or it's really loud, that type of thing. And you
Mhm.
can be hypo or hyper and all of those things. And for me, I have some interoception issues that took me so long to realize, even though looking back at my history, they're so obvious. But a lot of ADHDers have issues with eating because they don't have, well, I mean, a lot of the time it's distractibility, right? If you hyper focus, you forget you're hungry. You're not focusing on your hunger because you're into
Mhm.
whatever you're into. But at the same time, you can also have that issue without the distractibility where you're just not getting the hunger signals correctly. So you forget to eat because there's no signal coming until you're
Mhm.
starving. And then you overeat because your satiation doesn't come
Mhm.
at the right time either, or because you've left it too long and blah, blah, blah. It's like a flow on. But sensory, yeah, interoception, I find, is such a fascinating topic for pain and doctors because I have hypersensitivity to pain and my autistic cousin is hyposensitive to pain. And we both have had equally
Mhm.
traumatic experiences in the health system because of that difference in pain response, because we never look like textbook patients. And so doctors won't believe me because it's like I look like a drama queen who's faking it
Oh.
because I'm like usually just crying more than I should, or I can't pinpoint where the pain is. I just know there's pain. So I almost got sent home with a appendix that was about to burst because they didn't believe me. Luckily, my mum was very persistent, and equally, my cousin was almost sent home
Oh
about to
gosh.
give birth to her second child. The midwife said, you don't have a sweaty upper lip, so you can't be close. Go home. She walked out the hospital and I'm like, I need to push. And the baby was born like within 10 minutes. So I think this is important in healthcare. And that's why I bring it up when you like saying doctor made me think of that. Because I've had such traumatic experiences with doctors. And I mean, I'm probably a bit of a weirdo because I've had way more experiences than the average person because I was in a car crash at 23 and because I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that I didn't know until after I was diagnosed autistic. But at the same time, I'm sure a lot of autistic people could relate to having poor interactions with doctors because they don't show up as typical patients or they can't explain
Mm.
their symptoms as easily or as correctly as they should. Anyway, that's definitely been my
Mm.
experience.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking this is random, but I promise it makes sense.
I believe you.
I was doing my business proposal stuff today. I was like thinking about how I'm going to help people, and I was like, should I have it to do something to do with the brain? But I think that's actually, I think we need to focus a little bit more on like the whole body. Like somebody who's autistic, it's like everything about their brain and their body in those interactions could be quite different. So like in my profession, there's so many things that are misinterpreted, like down to like feelings, emotions, everything like that. It's like every
Yes.
single thing is like you have to like throw out the rule book. So what that wouldn't be any different to like anything else,
So true.
any other setting, like pain and symptoms.
I think you're on the money because technically all of those feelings in our body is the brain still, in terms of, interpreting them and processing them. So that does make sense. But you're so right. And the other thing that you remind me of there is, emotions and processing. And
Mm.
in my first year of therapy, my psychologist would say, like, where do you feel that?
Oh.
And I was like, what? And she sort of like gave me an example of, like, is it in your chest or like, your shoulders? I was like, yeah, chest. Like, I
That
totally
one.
made it up because I can't feel that anywhere. It's an intellect. It's like a logical
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And now I realize that I have alexithymia.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, such an interesting area, alexithymia. Again,
Yeah.
another thing that it's like very different to what people like what you look up.
Yes, agreed.
I think I might have it too. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I thought I understood emotions. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is about everything with
Mm.
psychology, is that the initial words never actually fully explain it.
Yeah.
Like PDA, pathological demand avoidance.
Oh yes, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, I love that. I'm very fresh into researching this, so I'm
Mhm.
not super confident about it yet. But initially looking into it, I dismissed it and thought, no, that's not me. And the more I look into it and listen to the experts and the people that I think are experts, the true lived experience experts, like, Christy Forbes is a good one. She's an Aussie, or Harry Thompson in the UK
Mhm.
wrote a great book on it and has been on some podcasts if anyone wants to look up those people. I'm starting to realize that I'm very demand avoidant, but the way it shows is not typical demand avoidance, which is very much like you look very stubborn and you're non-compliant. I'm demand avoidant, but in a very avoidant way. And I don't know if that makes sense, but what I'm trying to say is I will not outwardly defy things, but I will really sneakily avoid in any way I have to do. Even, and it sounds bad because, I will literally lie about stuff, like, oh, I don't want to go to see a friend or something because for 1,000 reasons. I'm just not up to it that day, and I'll be like, oh, I'm sick, or something came up, but it didn't. But people don't want to know that because then it's like you're a jerk.
Mm.
Right? And that's not even a good example. The example I love that I think it's Harry Thompson gives, is about he was at a camp and
Mhm.
he loves playing the guitar and he plays it in public all the time, no issue. And someone at the campfire said to him, "Oh, go get your guitar, play us some songs." And he went into the back room, into the cabin, and literally broke the strings of his guitar
Oh.
and was like, "Oh no, they're broken, I can't play," and immediately regretted it. But like, there's such demand avoidance is so much more subtle and nuanced than, I mean, as all psychology things are, than it first looks.
Yeah, it's such an interesting like okay, this is probably a bit of an issue for anything we talk about because I just think so deeply about things. Like I'll be just staring off into the distance. My partner's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "I'm just thinking about PDA." I'll just be thinking about
Oh
PDA
my
for
god, I do that all
hours.
the
Do
time.
you? Like trying to like figure because yeah, and so
Yep.
it's really intriguing to me because so basically what I've been doing with every single thing I've learned about neurodivergent symptoms, traits, whatever, I kind of try to reframe it to see if it sort of fits in a way that's like you're not just being an a-hole
Yes.
because that's how
I
I
feel like
think
you should title a book that.
that's a very long
You're not just
title.
being a-holes.
You're not an a-hole, okay? You're lovely,
Yeah.
but don't let me tell you that because you won't agree. No, but I think it's like if you so one of like behaviorism, you have like ABA and that's like triggering stuff. But like actual behaviorism, when
Yes.
done right, you sort of look at, okay, well, what is it that what need is that person meeting for like every single thing that they do? And if it's like that PDA, which PDA really is describing a behavior or
True.
response, not a underlying cognitive mechanism.
Mhm.
And that's I think what's missing from a lot of these things is behavior. So it's like,
Yep.
well, if somebody's telling me what to do in a way that doesn't make sense to me, I'm not going to do it because, like, why? I don't understand it. Like, I'm
Yep.
not just being stubborn for the heck of it. If someone is like, hey, let's like do a podcast about autism and, this is what we're going to talk about, I'm like,
Yeah.
let's do that. So anyway, I
Yep.
won't get too drawn into it, but I just question everything.
No, I totally get what you're saying, and I completely agree. I think I mean, that's a big issue with, why women are diagnosed so late, is that we don't behave typically. And so much of psychology research and diagnosis is formed off observation. And if you observed me,
Mhm.
you most like as an expert in autism, I doubt that they'd be able to tell quickly anyway that I was autistic, because my behavior is very neurotypical, because I've learnt to do things that are unnatural to me because they get a better response
Mhm.
from people. And most of it's very subconscious. Like, it's not like I grew up and was like, oh, I really can't act like this. It was, every day you have constant little experiences where certain things go wrong, and then you learn. And for me, I don't know about you,
Mm.
but I'm very, very good with patterns. So patterns of behavior, patterns of observation. So for me, I think my masking very naturally occurred when I would see how
Mm.
people responded to me, friends, family, whatever, teachers, and I'd very quickly learn what got a good response and what got a bad response, which is basically like what masking is, right? Is that you're putting up that behavior that will be a good response, even though maybe the behaviors that would get a bad response aren't necessarily actually bad. It's the interpretation of them that's the bad thing. And I think that's so important, because until we start to break down that morality around behavior and communication, then you've got a real issue of you're pointing the finger and it's not
Mhm.
getting pointed in the right direction. Not saying it should be pointed the other way. I'm just saying it shouldn't be pointed at all. Let's just acknowledge that we have fundamentally different
Mhm.
ways to think and communicate. My experience of autism is so internal. There is no look of autism. You can't tell a person is autistic by looking at them. That's just how it is.
Yes. Yes to everything. I think it's really hard for people to understand that you can be presenting neurotypical and not even know that you're doing that. It's like,
Yes, I think that is really hard.
yeah, it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that. This is why I think that neurodivergent psychologists are very, very good,
I do too.
because
Seconded. Yeah.
that is like, the skills you need to be a psychologist is like fine tuned throughout your whole life, like picking
Yeah.
up on people's states and reactions.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of empathy is just complete, wrong, because it's like, yeah. I've thought about this a lot. So I'm like, I'm really good at like fitting with like all my clients, because I'm like trying, I have that well refined skill of like picking up and like molding myself to what they need. But I don't want that to come across as like being manipulative.
Yeah. Or inauthentic.
Yeah, it's still like that's the authentic for me in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it does take a toll. So I think if you're a
Yes.
neurodivergent psychologist, you're going to burn out.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You need to put in some extra boundaries to protect yourself.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And what are neurodivergent people really bad at? Boundaries.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what your needs are. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a recipe for burnout.
Absolutely. No, I've been lucky enough to talk to a few neurodivergent psychologists through this work,
Mm.
and some of the other stuff I do, and I just am blown away at their level of expertise and their ability to articulate it and really figure out how minds work. It's beautiful. Like, I have two therapists. I
Mm.
say that I'm special. Well, yeah, one of my therapists is neurodivergent, and I actually only found out like officially recently, and I've been seeing her for like 3 years, I think. And I always suspected, but I mean, you're not really supposed to say to your therapist, "Are you autistic?" um,
All right, say it,
yeah.
definitely.
Well, I know. I wish I had, because now, like, she just out and like mentioned it the other day in passing, and I totally didn't react because I was like, "Oh, yes." But equally, like, pretending like, "Yeah, yeah, I knew that." Totally. But and my other therapist, who's not autistic, she has social anxiety. So I don't even necessarily think to
Mm.
be honest, I think if you have any kind of neuro difference, I think that's an asset as a psychologist, because you've had to do the
Mm.
work
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
understand your own mind and how others work and how you differentiate. I think that's such a skill. And from my own experience of seeing many therapists, my absolute favorite ones that have made such a profound impact on my own journey have been neurodivergent. And I think that might be why. I mean, what do I know? But
Yeah, it's definitely why. No.
Yeah,
You're the best,
totally.
yes.
Totally.
Can I talk about things that I made this little list of like, it's called my tick of approval list for things that I'm like all for.
Yeah, what's the next topic?
This is really random. Let's just go through it. Okay. TikTok.
TikTok.
TikTok, the app. I love it. I approve of it. Like, this is really random, but just like,
Oh my god, Alana's making me get onto that. Not you too.
do it.
No, seriously, I have got an account now after my episode with Alana.
I found your account and I'm following you. But okay, to elaborate, a lot of psychology, well, some of them are like, you're just watching TikTok. That's why you think you have ADHD. That's why.
But that is, and that's right most of the time.
Yeah, it's nobody is like watching one video and they're like, I have ADHD. Well, maybe, but
Doubtful.
usually it's just like hours and hours and hours. Yeah. So TikTok, definitely, it's like therapy.
Agreed. I think Instagram's not that far behind it as an Insta fan.
Yeah. Good resources on
But
that.
I have heard TikTok is the place to go for neurodivergent video.
I love how you're like, but Instagram.
I know.
Come
Don't
on.
forget Instagram. Here I am still struggling to use Twitter after all these years.
Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna start a TikTok and Insta.
Yeah, you should. I'll follow you. I follow Alana. That's all.
Walking during therapy. It's going for a walk. Because some people,
interesting.
when they're moving, they can talk. When they're not moving, they can't talk.
I mean, that's like a stim,
Yeah.
right? It's relaxing. Well, for some, I must say there are periods where I definitely wouldn't have done that, but that was when I had chronic pain and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think an interesting thing to mention, and this is something that I kind of I like to caveat neuro-affirming recommendations with, is, and I'm sure you'd agree because, I mean, we've talked about this stuff, but I just think it's important for people to listen to know that I think the point of our recommendations is really that we need to open our minds to what works, because what's currently working is so narrow and limited, and everyone is so different. So you might find one neurodivergent person that really, really opens up and thrives by going for a walk in therapy. And you might find one neurodivergent person that, like me, I really like telehealth. I've just been in heaven since COVID happened because I love nothing more than not having to leave my house. I don't have to deal with traffic, noise, smells, anything. And I can be very comfortable in whatever I want to wear, which, to be fair, I wear out anyway. But, you know, I have that level of control over my environment. So I think it's more just like, let's open our minds to other ways to do therapy, because it's so limiting as it currently is.
That's really important that you pointed that out, because I'm like saying, do this, do that, without the kind of...
Which I do love these recommendations, by the way. I will caveat. They're great.
Yeah. The context. So I actually have fallen trapped to this when it's like, this person's autistic, do this. Don't make eye contact, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like people just applying this like, okay, what do I do? Oh, I do this strategy, do that. And it's like, what you need, like the main thing is the unmasking and working with that person. And like, you need to like map their brain.
Yes.
So, and once you do that and you see the world from their view, even though that might be very different.
Yeah.
And even if you're autistic, right, as well, then you can start operating within their system of coherence, like, you know, that internal coherence thing.
Yeah.
Because if you say something that conflicts with that, it's not going to kind of reach them. And that might not be verbal. It might be,
absolutely,
through movement or something. So
yeah. And also, I think another thing to point out in like this scenario, and I sort of think about this in all healthcare, not just therapy, is, you know, it'd be so nice to just have a level of understanding throughout medical professionals and health professionals that they knew that there's this basic framework of our traits and there's this whole handful of tools that you can use. And it would be so good if we get to a point where therapists can like offer options, because I mean, most autistic people, I still come into this, you know, I've been in therapy for so long, and multiple therapies too, like occupational therapy. I don't know what my options are until someone points them out or I research. And that's why I research a lot, because I don't usually know what to do. And the good therapists I see in all areas are the ones that are like, you know, I see that maybe you're not liking this as much, or you know, anything. Just like, is this working for you? maybe we could try A, B, or C, and then let me choose, which is the whole, I think, to be honest, this is my demand avoidance talking, because if I feel empowered and if I feel like I have a choice and if I feel like I'm not limited to whatever one way that it works, then it's not me having to go, I don't like this, because generally I will just do it and suffer or avoid and not come back instead of ever being like, oh, I don't like, I mean, I'm different now with my therapist because I trust them so much, but it's still hard. And it would be so good if therapists could say, we could do telehealth, or we could go for a walk while we do our therapy, or you're welcome to bring your knitting, or just throw some ideas out there and let the client or patient tell you what suits them, or experiment together and build that trust using that as a tool.
Yes. So what you're describing, that's that, remember that reparenting thing I was talking about before?
Yes, exactly.
That's what you need in because like when your whole experience is one of things not working for you and not having a choice, it's like, well, you need to have this choice control. That's like a basic human need. It's not
Agreed.
PDA.
Yeah, thank you.
It's
That makes me
basic
feel
human
better.
need. Not PDA. I'm going to put that up. It's not PDA.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly right. Like if like there's no just one strategy, maybe I shouldn't even recommend strategies. But then again, it's good to have options.
No. I think the strategies are good, and I don't mean to be picking them apart because I do like your strategies. I guess it's more, I'm thinking from a perspective of if I was listening to this back a few years ago when I was fresh on the scene of neurodivergence. I'm a very literal thinker. I still am, and it's my brain, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a literal thinker. But I think where it can come to a point where it's not so helpful is that when we try and learn these things and we become aware of them, we feel we're still getting pigeonholed and it's still rigid thinking. And for me, I guess I'm just continuously trying, and my therapist sort of helped me do this, to keep being open-minded and flexible in my thinking. So, for example, if you were listening to a podcast that said, go to the shops and make sure you always take a coin to use the trolley because that will make your experience better, then and this is really stereotyping, but I'd go to the shops and use the trolley, even though I only needed to maybe get like 2 things that would have easily not even needed a bag. I really struggled with this personally in the first few years of having chronic illness and health issues, is that I would listen to my health providers and I would do exactly what I was told sometimes, and it wouldn't work. And instead of going back and saying it didn't work, I would either not go back or I would go back and pretend I did it and didn't, which is not helpful. But, that's a whole nother story. So I guess for me, I'm always thinking about younger Annie, who really needed help in navigating this very complex area. And for me, it's like, these are suggestions that go beyond what currently exists or is offered mostly. But at the same time, you can be flexible within those still.
Let's just let that be the main suggestion, right? Like flexibility.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love that I'm like, hey, here's
Exactly.
this thing. And you're like, hold up. This is how I'm interpreting it. And that's exactly what I like. What just happened? That.
Yeah.
That is like what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Obviously that's the self-advocacy.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is, I wrote be annoying until your needs are met. Like it's like,
yes,
who
I like that.
cares if you're annoying?
I love that. I love how direct it is.
Yeah.
Seriously, you should use all these titles. They're so good. No, but at the same time, we've been annoying, right? We've been told we're annoying our whole lives, or whatever, insert ableist term here, lazy, stubborn, sensitive, whatever. So it's really hard, I think, for us to stand up for our needs and to push back. So I think that even makes us more vulnerable to things like behaviorism and ABA, because we're already in a state of, I suppose, fawn at the extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree. Push back. Push back.
So something I've been thinking about a lot recently, like with the boundary stuff, and I know we were talking about this the other day. I see a lot of stuff out there about boundaries, like just this is how you set a boundary. But it's like it's not just about like knowing how to do it. It's about you need to like believe that you have that right. And
I agree.
For people who have been repeatedly, like I guess, gaslighted unintentionally, you really don't.
Yes.
That's something you have to work through first. That's something that I'm doing at the moment.
Yep.
So don't feel bad if you can't set a boundary.
Oh, that's profound.
It just means that that's just hard for you right now, and CPTSD, I think, it is more, more common in neurodivergent people, and that's exactly what happens when you're traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of little T traumas.
Yeah.
They add up. I think that's so true. And I mean, I feel like we're on this exact same page in thinking that, because I think that, that's really it, is that you've really got to learn that you're a valuable person.
Mm.
And that you're worthy of everything everyone's worthy of. And I've put a lot of thought into why we even have, like, we are that way. And obviously, like you said, the gaslighting and all the little T traumas and such and the negative feedback, it all adds up. But, at the same time, trying to put that in like a practical term for someone who's listening, it can be as simple as from primary school continually being called up by the teacher to pay attention. Or I spent a lot of primary school sitting in the shaded part at recess because I'd forget my hat so often, and no one ever helped me with it. And I felt like I was being punished because I couldn't hang out with my friends at recess, but I equally couldn't remember my hat, and I just beat myself up about it every single time. Why couldn't a teacher have been like, she really struggles with her hat a lot, maybe we should keep a spare for her? Like, it's all these tiny little things that on their own or occurring once or twice, no big deal. Everyone forgets their hat. Everyone has to sit out for recess. But if it's happening so often that it's actually really affecting you emotionally, that's when I think alarm bells. And for me, like, what I'm saying is, like, alarm bells meaning maybe look at a diagnosis, because the diagnosis, or even self-diagnosis, self-identification, whatever you want to call it, all that enables you to do is understand yourself or your child better, and to give them the tools that means that they don't have to live in this constant state of shame cycles and embarrassment cycles that we've had to live because we lived most of our lives undiagnosed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said.
I still forget my hat.
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to all of that. I think a lot of it is maybe even stuff you don't remember because it's like
True.
not judged to be significant in a general sense.
Oh, that's powerful too. Absolutely.
I don't know if I was talking to you about this thing, but like even that whole, it can be really innocent. Somebody making an assumption about how you're feeling, and that makes you question. Like, for example, if someone says to me, "Oh, why are you upset?" I'm not upset. I'm thinking about PDA and the theory behind it.
Oh my gosh, this happens to me a lot too.
And I'm just like concentrating, and it's usually like a partner or a friend, like, "Are you okay?" And then I go, "Am I?"
Am I?
And then you think back to all the bad things that have happened, and it's like, oh, it's just
Yep.
like it gives you a lack of trust in your own internal sense.
Absolutely. And what you're projecting to the world, because sometimes I think we think that we look a certain way and it's getting interpreted wrong. I remember one of my first jobs as a grad, I was literally sitting in a cubicle in the hallway. So I had constant people walking past me while I looked at my computer screen, and I have severe resting bitch face. When I am concentrating, I look angry almost. And like to the point where even my husband the other day, I was listening to a really interesting podcast and I was staring off across the room at him at his desk, and he kept being like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Shut up, I'm concentrating." Like, yes, I'm fine. But it's that sort of thing where people would stop and be like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm just like, "Oh my God, what is on my face? Like, am I okay?" Oh, but also they actually don't want to know, "Are you okay?" Most people ask that because they want a quick, "Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for asking." There's
Mm.
that social nicety of, do you truly actually care? And then I actually have to figure out what I feel. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. It's complicated. But also, in saying that, another thing that brings to mind being misinterpreted. For me, I don't know if you could relate to this, but
Mhm.
I've had a lot of experiences in my life where I came across differently than I intended.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I went to boarding school after that 6-month all-girls school stint to a co-ed boarding school because I was that desperate to get away from all girls. I have a lot of female friends now, people. I love females. Like, oh my God, don't hate me for it.
Love the females. Not too much.
Yeah, exactly. But I was very homesick and shy, and I had to eat my meals in this big dining hall with all the people that I lived with, all the girls. And I didn't have a lot in common with them because we're from very different parts of Australia and very different interests. And I do what I do in most of my new schools. I did 8 schools as an army brat. Is you sort of spend the first few weeks or months observing and learning the lay of the lands, and then you come out of your shell and can, mask enough that you're accepted, whatever. But in this period, I thought I was just being a bit shy, friendly but shy, sure, introverted, whatever. And I had one of the girls come up to me a few months into being there and said, everyone thinks you're stuck up and that you think you're better than us. I was like, what? I do not think that. If anything, I'm horrified that you're all going to think I'm a weirdo and not be my friend.
Yeah, that is just the worst when you're like just doing what you kind of need to do
Yeah.
to function, to be accepted, and then it like works against you.
Yeah. And then equally, it happened in the complete reverse. I started my grad program after uni, and one girl that I'm very good friends with now, we're really close. I was very happy, bubbly, friendly, like gregarious. I was like, no one's going to think I'm stuck up. No one's going to think I think I'm better than them. I'm so friendly. And then, like a month
Other
into
way
the
around.
program, she said, when we started to become proper friends, she said, oh, I really thought you were like a queen bee when we first met because you were. I'm like, what? Because I was trying to be friendly and nice. Like, it just never comes out the way I intend. So I'm like, why bother? No, I'm kidding. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's like neutral's not an option.
No,
Like you just
exactly.
can't. Oh,
Exactly.
I struggle with this so much in workplaces because like when I'm working, it's like all I've got, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't really do the social too. But then I know that it's like appropriate to interact and maybe have a conversation. I'm not sure. So what I would do is like at random intervals be social and then just like withdraw for like weeks and then be like people must be so confused. I'm just like talking like, oh, I'm excited, and then I just like disappear. And then, oh, here I
I
am
love
again.
it. I love it. I can definitely
Like,
relate to
surely there's a
that.
better
Yeah.
way. But I'll even like unconsciously think like, when was the last time I had a conversation with this person? It was 2 weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And it's funny how we're very structured like that. It's like I don't want to be rude. I feel like we're so used to being like incorrectly interpreted that we have to constantly think about those things rather than it being.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not neurotypical, but I assume that neurotypicals go about their lives and don't spend a lot of energy thinking how they come across to their colleagues and if they're putting enough
Mhm.
effort in or too much effort or oversharing or undersharing or like
Hours.
yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's exhausting and it all adds
Mm.
up and it's why we get burnt out.
Yeah. You're either an extreme people pleaser who's burnt out
Yes.
or intensely guilty. There's like no in between.
Agreed.
Or like me now, unmasked and have lost the ability to. No, I'm building on my acceptance of my autistic self.
Yes.
That's the
Yes, which is so important.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's the third option, but it takes 2 years waiting list on the diagnostic.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
ridiculous. Does it really?
yeah.
2
Some
years?
places are 2 years. I was talking to a colleague the other
Oh,
day, runs a
wow.
charity, and 2 years where they live. It's not everywhere, and you can ask around, but there's a significant shortage.
I think the shortest time is 6 months, which is
Yeah,
still
yeah,
significant. Yeah. Wow.
yeah. It's tough.
And so many psychiatrists that are known to be the ones that are very good, especially with women, adult women with ADHD, have shut their
Yeah.
books. Like my psychiatrist shut his books almost immediately after I saw him 3 years ago and hasn't opened them. And then another friend of mine, psychiatrist, who's really well known on the coast, they've had their book shuts for at least 2 years as well. So all the decent ones that actually can give you accurate diagnoses are not accessible. Oh,
Mhm.
it's not good.
This is when I'm saying like be annoying, because
Yeah, be annoying, pester.
even if you can't get that like assessment booking, it does actually help a lot to just explore this anyway. And even if that means self-diagnosis, or
Mhm.
because like the more you learn, the more you'll connect and understand yourself, even without that label, that document. I know people want that.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely agree.
and if you're annoying
Mhm.
enough, your psychologist might eventually go to this neuroaffirming psychologist page, which I spend most of my time on, and find somebody to do an assessment. So yeah, don't just go, oh, it's too hard, because you will come back and be like,
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
you want that,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to put people off getting a diagnosis if they want that.
No, agreed. And also, like, I think it's so important the advice I give people who I get a lot of private messages asking who do they go to, and I don't have an answer because my
Mhm.
guy's shut. He's closed. But what I do say to people and what I've done in the past to help anyone is go onto Facebook and go to your local, like, whatever mums group or ADHD in your town group or whatever, and just ask. Literally just put a post up and say, hey, has anyone, any woman or any mum taken their daughter or whatever to someone and they could recommend. And I mean, that's the best way currently, because I mean, we do have, there's a few, like you were saying, that website, there's a couple of websites, but none of them are very consistent or updated frequently. I think it's that one or a similar one. My psychiatrist is still on, even though he's closed his books, and it doesn't say he's closed his books. So I think that's something else to be mindful of. If you're sitting here thinking, I want a diagnosis, one, don't get put off if you do have to wait. Keep doing the research and listening to people like us with lived experience, and obviously the normal research too. Just don't get too caught up in the negativity. It's easy to do. But equally, try and find the right psychologist or psychiatrist, because you're wasting your money if you go to someone who does not understand ADHD and autism in women, because they might not diagnose you. I mean, maybe you're not, but most of the time the lack of diagnosis is wrong. And it's purely because even though they say they work in this area, it's not their specialty. Maybe they just do some ADHD stuff on the side, but they mostly see men, whatever. I don't know why some of them are good, some of them aren't, but the grapevine exists and it's pretty easy to tap into thanks to social media. So use it.
Yes. And if you're pursuing this diagnosis, you're so fixated, quote unquote,
yes,
on it, and you're researching everything about autism, like that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah, I agree.
that you're neurodivergent. Yeah. Like not anyone is just like, oh my God, autism. Oh my God. Like,
yeah.
like,
you're one of us.
Yeah. Just take that. And that actually really helped me when I was talking to, like, I had a lot of clients that were questioning, and I had two supervisors, and one of them was like, are you sure? Like maybe they just watch too much TikTok. And then the other one was like saying, like, totally fair, by the way, because there is a concern about overdiagnosis, although it's not. It's actually the opposite way around. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. It makes me so mad that that's a thing
that's
out there.
That does not exist, okay?
No, it's still underdiagnosed. People don't listen to anyone that says otherwise.
Yeah, that's evidence-based.
It is.
But and my autistic supervisor was saying, why would they question this so much, if they're not neurodivergent? And I'm like, oh, and that clicked for me. That helped me accept it before I kind of had somebody else validate it. So, yeah.
Oh, that's such a good point. Like, it makes sense. I feel like I don't actually know anyone that hasn't questioned it, to be honest. I know a lot of autistic and ADHD women and men and non-binary, and I don't know anyone that hasn't questioned it. Pre, post diagnosis, doesn't matter. And I think that just reflects on the fact that the diagnostic criteria is still so limited and outdated and not reflective of the diversity that is the modern world.
Yeah, and definitely look into monotropism if anyone's interested. That really helped me. I know there's only one way of looking at it, but it kind of puts autism and ADHD kind of together for me.
Yeah, no, definitely.
This is really random, but I just want to say, can we accept plushies?
Oh, plushies. Cute.
Plushie acceptance. I want to start a foundation for plushie acceptance, because I love plushies and they are my friends.
Cute.
And I love them, and I don't care if it's weird. And
no,
I have
it's
Jeepyong.
Not weird. It's not
this
weird.
Jeepyong here.
Oh, that's so cute. It's a monkey for those who can't see.
I have different plushies for different reasons. It's from IKEA. Whenever I go to IKEA, which I do not recommend.
Oh, it is too. I've seen it.
It's like, oh my God, I feel weird. It's like clones. Like I feel like I'm in Star Wars. Like look at all the clones. I'm like, Jeepyong. Oh my God. Sorry, it's strange. I'm strange. I don't care.
No, I love it. I love it. No, so I have lots of teddy bears that my partner's given me over the years, and I love them so much. And now I have a child, so they seem more legit, but they're totally still mine. And I'm pretty sure my son's neurodivergent, considering his parents are, but he's so cute. He will literally lie down on the soft teddy bear. I think he really likes the feel. I'm like, oh, he's stimming, cute.
Yes, hopefully they're neurodivergent.
I know. Well, actually, my husband said, prepare yourself because he might not be. And I was like, oh no, what do I do?
I'd be devastated.
I know. I won't understand him. No, I'm kidding. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Well, probably true.
I'm pretty confident he is. He's very much like me.
Ah, good. Yes. All I want to say is autism is cool.
So cool.
I was listening to your first episode.
Yeah.
And you're like, if you think autism is cool,
then you're autistic. Yeah.
But it is, okay.
Yeah, it's the coolest.
It's
the coolest.
Yeah.
I feel bad for people that aren't autistic.
I actually do. I don't understand.
You're missing out on this really cool club.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But with that, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Joey. I have absolutely adored talking to you, and I'm sure everyone will take a lot of awesome information out of this.
It's been lovely to be on here. Thanks for having me, and I hope that what I've shared helps at least one person, make things a little bit easier.
I'm sure it will help more. Absolutely. Thanks, Joey. I hope you enjoyed our chat and can take away some helpful tips and a bit more self-acceptance. Next episode, I'm interviewing our first international guest, and I think you are going to love it. It is by far one of the most interesting conversations I've ever had in my life, and I know you're going to love her. So thanks for listening, and see you next time. Also, happy Autistic Pride Day. Over and out.